Wow, Andrew Cuomo's life blew up today. He's a very weird guy. You know that if you watch him on television, if you ever talk to him in person, and if you have, we apologize for the experience, then you know for certain. Andrew Cuomo has some secrets. Earlier this year, remember, several women accused him of sexual misconduct. And the weird thing is the media treated that like a bigger scandal than the fact that Andrew Cuomo caused the deaths of thousands of elderly people in nursing homes in his state and then covered up. That was no big deal. But saying something naughty to one of his staff, he's got to leave office. We're not defending either one, but proportion, please. Now, at the time, Cuomo denied the allegations. He emphasized, as he has for years, that he's a big believer in the Me Too movement. Of course he is. But today, the Office of New York's Attorney General completed its investigation into Andrew Cuomo's serial creepiness. And they found that Cuomo had violated, quote, multiple state and federal laws.
The investigation found that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed current and former New York State employees by engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching and making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature.
The governor's pattern of sexually harassing behavior was not limited to members of his own staff, but extended to other state employees, including a state trooper who served on his protective detail. Some suffered through unwanted touching and grabbing of their most intimate body parts.
The governor hugged Executive Assistant Number 1 and reached under her blouse to grab her breast. This was the culmination of a pattern of inappropriate sexual conduct, including numerous close and intimate hugs, where the governor held her so closely that her breasts were pressed against his body, and he sometimes ran his hands up and down her back while he did so. There were also several occasions on which the governor grabbed her butt.
Wasn't Joe Biden accused of all of that? Credibly, I guess we're pretending that didn't happen, but we care about this. One thing we learned, Andrew Cuomo is not against defunding the police. He wants to have sex with them, or at least one of them. Now, just to be clear, you can find the little sexual commissars on your screen that you just saw repulsive, and at the same time find Andrew Cuomo repulsive. It's okay to dislike everybody involved. In fact, you probably should. The AG's report also found that Governor Cuomo appeared to be sexually attractive to his Emmy statue. How's that for weird? Two witnesses also, this is a quote, recounted that during a meeting, the governor looked at his Emmy statue, which he had won in November of 2020, and put in his Albany office and said something to the effect of, quote, "Look at her figure. Isn't she buxom?" He's a total creep. I mean, for real. But you knew that. Another exhibit in the report appears to show Chris Cuomo of CNN drafted a statement for his brother, because that's totally normal, which his brother ultimately used. So here you have CNN, the news network, flacking for the governor of New York to defend himself against sexual harassment. This afternoon, Andrew Cuomo responded to the AG's report. He again denied that he did anything wrong. He did not claim anti-Italian bias, though he has claimed that many times in the past. He did make it clear he's not resigning. He also showed a slideshow of himself kissing people, including Al Gore, and said his gestures of affection have been wildly misinterpreted.
I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances. I am 63 years old. I've lived my entire adult life in public view. That is just not who I am. And that's not who I have ever been.
Now, we didn't show the tape, but we just want to be totally clear that the video, the slideshow that Cuomo put on the screen, showed him hugging Al Gore, but not reaching up under Gore's shirt to grab his man boobs. That did not happen. We didn't know if it happened, but he didn't show it today. Anyway, we're not quite sure what to make of all of this. Francie Hakes is. She's a former federal prosecutor. She joins us tonight. Francie Hakes, thanks so much for coming on. How would you assess what we've just learned about Governor Creepo?
Well, Tucker, I think Governor Cuomo is in a lot of trouble. I think it's pretty convenient that he says that's not who I am. That is a classic non-denial denial that we hear from sex offenders. And at the same time, he empathized with some of the women who've made these accusations. He called them a liar. You can't have it both ways. And one of the women who was a victim, a prior victim of sexual assault, he indicated that he felt so much sympathy for her. The condescension dripping from him was really pretty disgusting. The most interesting thing, I think, Tucker, is that everyone talks about sexual harassment and an unwanted touching, but grabbing someone in their breast area or their butt, an unwanted touching, those are batteries, assaults, and sexual batteries. And those are crimes. That's very different from a civil case, which is what the Attorney General is talking about today.
So I hate to borrow the words of the Me Too movement, but what this establishes is a pattern over time of hostile behavior, of sexually aggressive behavior, and it's happening in the office of one of the most liberal governors in America. Now, ask any woman who's dated across the aisle, and she'll tell you that liberal men are horrible to date. They mistreat women. I mean, that's just true. They're bad boyfriends across the board. But why didn't, so I'm not surprised that he did this, but why did nobody in the office report this until now? Why did it take years to find this out?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question, Tucker. It's all about cover-up, and I think it all has to do with power. When you've got someone in a powerful position like governor, he's been talked about many times as a presidential candidate. Even women who are supposed to support other women would rather run those women down for their own careers because they're looking for their own career advancement. And so they're willing to protect the governor. And by the way, what he said about kissing Al Gore and being in the public eye is a ridiculous excuse when you consider that sexual assault, sexual battery, and harassment are not crimes that would ever take place in the public eye. And isn't it convenient that he has built for himself a touchy reputation? My question is, did he build that touchy reputation for himself so that he could claim later that these were all misinterpreted touchings and that he's just a very affectionate man?
Yeah, and by the way, I kissed Al Gore is not a defense, it's an admission of guilt. I mean, even Tipper had enough of that over time. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. That's your I kissed Al Gore? I'm not weird? No, you're weird. You're very weird. Francie Hicks, you were not weird. You were insightful. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.